Today, we're going to talk about strength training, working out, building muscle, but no cheating. We're going to do this the healthy way. My guest today is Roman Fischer. Roman is a high-performance coach. He is also a wealth of information when it comes to building muscle and strength the healthy way. Are you ready? Okay, let's jump right in. Hello, Roman. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, Roman, just to introduce yourself to our audience, can you walk us through your journey up to this point?
Yeah. So currently right now I do acting, modeling, bodybuilding, and even coaching, specifically high performance coaching within fitness, just helping people transform their minds and their bodies both in their life. But what really brought me to this, because obviously I was not, very much into fitness to begin with. And I also was not, in acting and modeling right away. Of course, things happened and it eventually brought me from where I was to where I am now currently today. Now, there were a few different things in my past that happened throughout my life that brought me and pushed me into this realm that I'm in. So a few of the things, one of which actually being my younger brother lifting weights, seeing him actually get into fitness himself and pick up the weights and see that transformation, those positive changes that he was making on his body, and really not just with his physique, but with his confidence, even seeing his confidence just increase and level up, and being that, being that person, witnessing that, it was huge, especially when it's your family member. And yeah, being my younger brother, I was thinking if he can do it, I can do it too. So yeah, I just got into fitness myself because I was not very fit. I wasn't like overweight. I wouldn't say I was overweight or anything, but I was more skinny and I just didn't really have much muscle on me. I was more of that toothpick, so to speak, throughout school, or at least before high school. But right around that time when I was about 15, 16, right as I was getting into high school, after seeing my brother lift weights, I started, picking up the weights myself. I gave it a go and I really enjoyed it. I mean, just the feeling that I got after I finished my workout, it felt so good knowing that I was better than I was before, even if it was by a small margin. So just the feeling, the endorphins that you get from working out really helped my confidence. And then over time, it was cool seeing that transformation for myself, going from more skinny to getting muscle and more strength. And then, of course, by extension, more confidence. So that was actually what got me into fitness when it comes to the physical activity side of things. Now, I'll admit, with that being said, and with that as it was, I was not actually very aware or very cognizant. I would probably even say more to the point, I didn't care too much about what I was eating, at least not that much at all.
How old were you? About how old were you when this was happening, kind of early on your journey?
So yeah, when I got into fitness, I was about 15, 16, almost 16. Yeah, so it's been about 10 years now because I'm almost 26. Tomorrow is my birthday.
All right, well, happy birthday.
Thank you. But yeah, so that's actually when I got into fitness initially, when it actually comes to the working out side of things. Granted, I did play a little soccer in school, some, but that didn't really get me strong or muscular by any means. It kept me in shape as far as like keeping my calories in check. But yeah, I wasn't strong or muscular by any means. Outside of the leg strength, you could say maybe, but that's about it.
And now a quick word from our sponsor, Dr. Tates, Herbal Tinctures and Tonics. Dr. Tates offers the Herbal Blood Tonic, Doc's Detox, Herbal Male Tonic, Herbal Female Tonic, and the Herbal Fat Burner. If you would like to order your tonics or learn more information, you can go to drtates.online. And if you click the link in the description and enter the special promo code Adventures in Good Health 2024, you will receive 10% off your entire order. For more information, click the links below. And now back to the show. We hear a lot about people who, work out and they do fitness because they're trying to lose weight. And in your particular instance, you were very slender. Um, does trying to put on muscle when you have a very slender physique, does that have any unique challenges to it compared to someone who may be, maybe more barrel chested and they're just trying to build up that muscle but lose some of those extra pounds?
It just kind of depends on the person and what they've been doing. But typically, if you're skinny and more slender, like
Hmm.
I was back then, the challenge is if your metabolism's fast enough, trying to combat against that, but also trying to make sure that you're really challenging your body, your physique enough with your workouts, with at least calisthenic, but even better yet, trying to get actual strength training in. Because that's even better. Not to say calisthenics don't work, because they do, but actual weightlifting with dumbbells, barbells, and really, tearing that muscle tissue and really challenging your muscles. That's what really is key to promoting muscle growth, but also, of course, making sure that your nutrition's in check, that you're eating the right things and enough of the right things.
So what a
But
lot of
I would say
people.
it has its challenge though.
All right, because I was going to say, because at 15 and probably even into 18, 19, 20, uh, literally could eat Big Macs and Whoppers and not gain an ounce. And I think a lot of people in high school and in early college kind of experience that, and it kind of starts a bad habit, a lifetime
Right.
of bad habits. I remember seeing people who were in high school who were on the football team and extremely fit, and then you bump into them and they're 25, 27 years old and they've gained a lot of weight. And it was like there was this lifetime of bad habits. How would you advise someone who, let's just say, hypothetically, someone's around your age, 25, 26, 27, and they're still eating like they're 17? What would you advise someone like that in terms of nutrition?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, understand that it's okay to mess up a little bit. Like, don't be too hard on yourself, because setting too high of expectations is a little bit of a hindrance, believe it or not. Yes, you should aim to be as healthy as possible with everything you do and everything you eat and drink, but don't be too hard on yourself, because then it's going to be that much harder mentally to actually want to stay the course down the road. So, first and foremost, knowing that, acknowledging that before anything else. Beyond that, I would advise to, of course, steer clear of all fast food, all preservatives as much as possible, keeping your sugar intake, especially added sugars, to a very absolute minimum. And then, of course, sodium levels, keep that low too. And make sure that your activity level is in line with, your calories. Make sure that however much, whatever your goal is, if you're trying to lose weight, make sure that your calories are below, what you're burning off, so you can actually lose weight. Otherwise, you won't lose weight. And, vice versa. If you're, or really on the contrary, on the flip side of things, if you're trying to gain muscle and gain a little weight, then make sure that you're eating more than you're burning off. So I would advise that. But as far as like the unhealthy foods, try to eliminate them gradually. Don't eliminate them all at once, because yes, you can lose weight and still eat unhealthy or eat dirty, so to speak, if you don't eat too much, because it all really does come down to calorie intake, not so much what you eat. It's more how much you eat and how much you're burning off. That's what's going to really determine if you gain weight or lose weight or maintain. But even if you are in a certain calorie range you need to be in and are eating unhealthy, you still want to make sure that you're eating clean still, because for long term results, you're going to actually have more fat, so to speak, on your body if you are eating not very clean. But also, it's going to affect your sugar levels and it's going
Hmm.
to affect your blood pressure and all those things down the road. So, to actually, for longevity purposes, more than anything, not even so much if you're going to lose weight or gain weight, just for your health, for long term health and wellness, you want to make sure that you're eating as clean as possible with as little processed foods as possible. So I would recommend having maybe a cheat meal or at least gradually, like depending on how
Oh,
much
a
you
cheat
eat.
meal. I think you said a cheap meal. You said a cheat.
No, a cheat meal.
A cheat meal.
So
All right.
however much you eat when it comes to junk food, however much of that you're eating, make sure to gradually eliminate it. Don't fully eliminate it all at once. Ultimately, that's the goal. But if you do that and just go all out and gradually, if you don't gradually eliminate it and you just eliminate it fully, it's going to put you in a bind in your mindset. And it's going to be hard because it's just like a smoker with cigarettes. If they just quit smoking right away, it's very hard on their mind and their emotions because they're addicted to that, and people can be addicted to junk food like sugar. Sugar is one of the most addicting things or ingredients that people consume, not even knowing it. And that's why it really does spike your cravings and hunger. So really just not fully eliminating it, but gradually eliminating it enough to where you can fully eliminate it. That's what I would recommend.
So kind of like a
start
step,
slow.
A start slow, kind of a step process. Now, something that I've heard a lot is that where people are lifting weight, or maybe even if they're doing treadmills, but they're lifting weights, they're working on a treadmill, whatever their program is, and they're trying to eat more sensible. And then they'll complain, I get lightheaded. Unless I eat a candy bar or something before I go work out, I'm going to feel really lightheaded. How do you find that balance? I mean, what is causing that lightheadedness? Because obviously they've got calories in their system and they got energy in their system. But it's like their brain is telling them, oh, you're hungry, you're hungry, you're hungry when you're trying to work out. How do you kind of get past that?
Yeah, I mean, I personally recommend to try to work out, if not on an empty stomach, at least have very little in your body, in your system, because one of the worst things you can do is eat a huge meal and then go work out, because you're going to really feel fatigued then and potentially even throw up. Not that we want that to happen, but that happens to a lot of people. They sometimes eat a big enough meal and it's good for that moment, but if they're going to work out, especially very intensely after, it's one of the worst things you can do in that window. So making sure, honestly, trying to work out early enough to where you can work out on an empty stomach. So maybe at like 8 or 9 in the morning, just not eat much of anything and then work out on an empty stomach. That usually works the best for me. And that works for a lot of people. But if you're one of those people that you got to at least have a little small breakfast before your workout, like a pre-workout meal, totally fine. I recommend then a very natural, all natural, high protein shake. So something like that will actually curb your cravings and hunger in the morning, but also one that doesn't have any added sugar in it, and that still is free of all the artificial colors and flavors. So one of the protein shakes I have, and sometimes I'll have this before my workout. I usually work out on a fasted stomach though. But if I do have anything, I'll usually have a Garden of Life protein powder that I'll use, and I'll just take 1 scoop of it, maybe with just some water and a little bit of creatine just before.
Just right before. Back in the day, at gyms, fitness centers, it became popular to have the juice bar right there. And then, unfortunately, if you actually looked at the ingredients, they were just pouring all kinds of sugars and stuff like that. It's like, okay, so just because it's sold at a gym or a fitness place doesn't mean that's something that you need to gravitate right to that. You need to be educated about your own health and find out what's actually in that juice. And it sounds like your recommendation is just take that out of the equation, control your own health, and do your own. If you feel you need it, you're suggesting use your own mix or something that you buy that you know exactly what's in it.
Right. Yeah. Making sure to ideally work out early enough where you can just work out on a fasted stomach, because that way you'll have the most energy. You won't feel sluggish. Nothing's in your system. You can just go in, work out, and go hard and go back home or wherever you got to go after. And then you can eat something right after that.
Okay.
I tend to feel a lot better that way. A lot of people I know do too. And a lot of the clients I've had sometimes do that too. But if you're, again, one of those people that need to have something before your workout, that's also totally fine. It's not like you're going to hinder your fitness goal or goals by doing that. But if you're going to do that, just make sure to eat something light and something a little bit more filling and, of course, natural, preferably organic, at the very least, more natural, that doesn't have any sugars in it or very, very little added sugar. Something, again, like a protein shake. I take Garden of Life, so that's a
Okay.
great protein powder I recommend. But if you're not going to take a protein shake, maybe just have an apple or banana. Those are good too because it's, fruit. Fruit's good for you in moderation anyway. And apples and bananas can give you energy. So that's a great little pre-workout in itself. And maybe take a coffee or some all natural pre-workout that doesn't have all these sugars. Because you also got to be careful about that. Some people will go out and opt for pre-workouts and they have great, intentions in their mind. They want to get pumped up for the gym, but then they fall for all these crazy brands that are so popular, especially in the United States here. And I mean, to an extent, some of them are not as bad as others, but many of them are because a lot of them have all these crazy amounts of sugar, not even to mention all these just artificial colors and preservatives.
Now, are these like powder mixes or like protein bars or?
Yeah, so the pre-workout that people get, it's usually in the form of powder.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll have, an energized or like an energizing bar. So, but it is typically in the form of a powder. And I really recommend if you're going to go that route, that's fine, but just try to make sure you find one that's more locally sourced, organic if possible, or at the very least one that just doesn't have a lot of sugar and like no preservatives and as clean as possible. Just really reading the ingredient label and knowing what's in your pre-workout is key. That's another thing. So really, that's with anything though.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to be careful. Not everyone who is selling something to the people who are into fitness has the best of intentions.
Exactly.
So when you're working with someone, are you tracking their progress, or do you encourage people, even if they're working by themselves, to track their progress? They're lifting this much weight this week and this much weight. Is it like these little micro goals, or how do you do that?
It's a little bit of both. I try to make sure that they have somewhat of an understanding and knowledge of what they're doing. So that way they don't feel fully dependent on me. But I also am there, obviously, as their coach to guide them when need be and help just track about roughly how much weight they're lifting, whether it's in the lightweight or moderate weight range, or even maybe the heavier weight range. Obviously, depending on the person, their age, like their goals and their experience and fitness level, that all just gets thrown into that. But determining that actually will determine where I have them in that range. But typically to answer your question, it's just to have them in a certain weight range, depending on their goal and experience and fitness. And then, of course, I just guide them in that way, but I also have them understand where they're at and like the weight that they need to lift accordingly. And I'll have them lift however much they want to lift as long as it's in that range.
So that was kind of a lead-in question into what happens when someone hits a wall. How do you encourage someone? It kind of plateaus over a period of time. How do you get people? Because that's like a mental thing that is tough for people to get past and can lead to bad decisions to try to push through that. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah. My thoughts exactly are, for starters, plateaus are going to happen at some point. It's just part of the game. It's part of the process. Like, you're always going to have at least a little roadblock every once in a while. So I'll have them understand if that's what you're facing right now, it's totally normal. It's part of the process. Of course, you want this to happen as little as possible. I'll have them understand that too. So with that, I'll make sure that their mindset is right and it's set on the right path, that they're actually focused on going forward, not staying the same and not going back, of course, definitely not going backwards. So making sure their mindset's dialed in right, because that's where everything stems from to begin with. And then beyond that and past that, I make sure that they're actually, sticking to the workout, sticking to the meals, that they're actually hitting their macros right, like their proteins, fats, and carbs, their calories, or at the very least, that they're very close to their calories, as close as they can be.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also make sure that they get all their workouts in. And then if it's maybe the workouts are getting a little easy for them or they're not challenging them as much. So if that's where the plateau is, that would make sense. And that's sometimes what can happen with some clients that I've worked with. And I know that, with other people that they worked with too, when they were trying to be coached, that's happened to them. So typically what I'll do then, if I find that out, I'll just increase the intensity in some form or fashion, whether it's upping the weight, adding maybe an extra set or two, or whatever it might be.
So about 20 years ago, I was working with a trainer in Texas, and I worked with him for a couple of years, and we pretty much gained a good, trusting relationship. And at some point, he confided in me. He said, David, the owner of this gym, he's taking steroids, and like all the employees, we keep trying to tell him, you got to stop taking the steroids. And his wife was pleading with him, you got to stop taking the steroids. And for whatever reason, he didn't. And then I remember coming in for my training session, and there was just a chaos in that place. And it was a beautiful gym. I mean, it was a privately owned, beautiful gym, but there was a chaos. I was like, what's going on? The owner had died of a heart attack. He was like 36 years old. Back in the showers or something, he was doing whatever it was at the start of the day and just died. What's your thoughts in terms of if someone's hitting a plateau and they're thinking about going, they're open, they see things on the internet, they hear how you can take certain things, it'll get you immediate results. How do you advise that person?
Yeah, when it comes to stuff like that, I just have them stray away from it as quick as possible, because really when it comes down to it, results obviously are what we all want by the end of the day, but trying to get quick, shortcut results, that's never the answer. Nothing is ever really overnight. Nothing is just going to happen the next day. I mean, of course, in a perfect world, it would be just like that, but it's definitely not the case. So making sure to understand that's what I always tell everyone, that it's progress over perfection. Obviously, we want these results to happen sooner than later, and we can at least somewhat shortcut the results to an extent, but we can't be going out and just getting steroids and all these, growth hormones that people will have.
Yeah, that was a big thing like 10 years ago. You're hearing famous actors saying, human growth hormones, that's why I look so young. I'm 60 years old, but I look like I'm 45.
Right.
There's a lot of red flags with that.
Oh, yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Like certain things like creatine, totally fine.
But the body produces that naturally.
Right, exactly. And just supplementing that's totally fine. You got to also, though, make sure that if it requires cycling, on and off, that you're following that. But beyond that, like that's totally cool. But that protein, making sure you're having enough protein, challenging your body in the gym enough, progressive overload, things of that nature. But when you step outside of that and you try to go the not so natural route, to say the least, it's never really a good thing. I mean, you might live to be, pretty old, maybe, but it's usually not something for longevity. We'll just say that. Trying to do all these steroids and all these artificial things that people will pump into their body to get quicker, faster results, it never really ends well for anyone. So I always try to make them understand for the long haul, the long run of this. If you want results, definitely that's good, but you can't subject yourself to shortening your lifespan just to maybe get somewhat quicker results.
Is hitting
all natural?
Go ahead.
Being all natural is key.
Is hitting a plateau in and of itself bad? Like
Hitting a plateau.
we have physical limitations of our bodies. Like I could work out forever, and I'm not going to bench 400 pounds, but you've got a certain limit, and people, I guess they have this expectation. But is there ever a time when just you've a person is in a good spot? When do they know they're in a good spot and not to get disappointed by that? Or is that even a thing?
Yeah. So wait, so you're asking, is there ever
A type of
rephrase that
plateau, like somebody, you're working with someone, and finally, they're kind of at a point where they're benching what seems to be their max right now, or they're lifting, and maybe they're 48-year-old male, and you've doubled his ability to lift weights, but at some point, is that okay to just maintain at a certain level?
Yeah, it just depends on what they really want more than anything by the end of the day. Of course, them being the client. If they're happy with it, there's not really any shame in it. Of course, I believe that your body's always under construction.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I believe it. And that's really the truth. But if you're happy where you're at, I mean, there's nothing per se wrong with that. Of course, it's kind of subjective at that point. Some people might think that, well, why should they stop now? Like they could make, X amount more progress here. They can make progress over here. And that is true. And I do believe that we should still strive. We should still strive to be better, mentally, physically, and otherwise in everything, fitness and even outside of fitness. But if they're happy where they're at with a certain part of their body, I don't see a shame in it. If they're, reasonably in shape, like let's say their body fat percentage is not insanely low, because you got to have some body fat, but it's low enough where they're in a healthy range and their weight is not crazy low or crazily high, I do believe that's fine then if they're really satisfied, like fully satisfied with that. But I still urge my clients, even if that comes, to a point for some of them, to, just keep going for more. Just keep trying to improve if you're willing. If you're happy where you're at, I say that's fine, but maybe let's just work on something else then. That's usually what I'll do. I'll encourage them to try to keep progressing, because you can always progress. Again, progress over perfection. There's never a finish line. It just keeps going. It's a marathon. So I try to have them understand that. But again, if they're happy where they're at, I say that's totally fine. We can always just work on some other goal in some area or in some other area for your body.
So one of the things that is that I've heard over the years is about kind of breaking up your workout into certain days. People say, well, Monday is leg days and Tuesday is however it's broken up. But I've heard some people, they like to do legs every day, or they'll do biceps every day, and they'll say, well, bricklayers have muscle, and they're not laying bricks just on Monday. They do it, 5 days a week. And Marines in the military, they're not just, getting into shape one day of the week. It can be a little confusing, but my thought is that's a little bit different if you're doing your job over something that's repetitive versus breaking down that muscle as part of a specific workout. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So I believe that, well, first off, I can understand where they're trying to come from on the surface, but really when you dive into it, even just a little bit, it is definitely different, like you were saying, because when you're actually in the gym, or even if you're not at the gym, just if you're working out, you're usually targeting a certain part of your body. And if you're continuously targeting that exact part and portion of your body, it's good to an extent. But if you keep doing it, like 4 to 5 days a week, especially if it's on the same part of your body, that's a little taxing, to say the least, for your body. And it's going to hinder some growth because it's not really recovering properly. See, your muscles, of course, they grow. They grow after you work out, but you got to recover your body. You got to recover your muscles for it to actually function properly, of course, but to actually get that maximum growth, potential. So if you're continuously breaking it down with very little rest for it, it's not going to be the results you want. At best, it'll be more of the, partial results, so to speak. So making sure that you're giving yourself enough time to rest on each part of your body. I really do stress that, and I really do believe that for myself, but everyone else too, whether they're my clients or not my clients. You got to have at least, a couple days to rest.
Okay.
I really emphasize, if you're going to train your body, which you should, train your body no more, each part of your body, no more than twice a week. I'd say twice a week for sure, because any less than twice a week, you're not going to really challenge your body enough. But much more than twice a week, then you're actually going to be wearing down that part of your body.
So when you break your muscles down, they rebuild, and what you're saying is that's kind of like where the building is when they recover.
Yes.
Do they rebuild when you're sleeping, or just when you're? They do. Okay.
Yes, it's just like when you're sleeping. Just like if you're trying to burn fat, when you're sleeping, that's when your body's really actively burning fat.
Wow. So Roman, you work with people, is that correct? To help them with their fitness?
Yep.
All right. Now, do you do that remotely, or do you do it like in person, one-on-one?
Right. So I've flirted with the idea of doing in-person training. Okay. Probably will at some point, but it's really just been all virtual.
Wow. It is the modern world that that can happen. If someone who's listening to this podcast, if they'd like to reach you, what is the best way that they can reach you?
Yeah, for sure. So if you want to find out just more about me, what I do, the clients that I've helped, and really just their overall results, transformation, and if you're trying to, get help with your fitness goals, you can actually reach me at my website, romanfisherofficial.com, fill out a form or consultation, and we can go from there. Or if you want to connect with me one-on-one, I am on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and even LinkedIn at Roman Fischer Official, for those of you that use LinkedIn.
All right. Well, LinkedIn is a great resource.
A
lot of people don't utilize that, but it really is a great resource. So all your contact information is in the YouTube and podcast episode description. And as you were reading off those social media links, it actually popped up on the side screen so everyone could read them as well. I certainly encourage people to reach out to you. Physical fitness is important. All right. People have different goals, but it's important. But it's important you do it the right way. You can actually hurt yourself if you don't. And then also, if you don't get the results or you injure yourself, that just kind of deflates, and people will give up, or even worse, they'll try to start using chemicals and things to try to hit their goals. Sometimes you just need a coach, someone who knows what they're doing to help you. And so, Roma, I really do appreciate you sharing your message with our audience.
Yes, I appreciate it. It was very, very, very interesting. I just really love just diving into just the realm of health and fitness, because I know it's cliche, but health is wealth. I mean, if you don't have your health, you don't really have anything else. No matter how much you might have, in the bank account, whether it's a lot or not, you got to have your health before anything.
Thank you, Roman. Okay, that's it for this week. Now, I have a question for you in the audience. Have you clicked, the subscribe button? Click the subscribe button and the notification, and two things happen. One, that helps the channel, and two, the notification will let you know every time we upload a new video. All right, we do appreciate your help. Please comment, subscribe, like, all that wonderful stuff. All right, that's it for this week. I am David Maloof, and I'm signing off, exploring natural approaches to good health. That does it for this episode of Adventures in Good Health. We would like to hear from you regarding this podcast and any suggestions you have for future podcasts. You can reach us at Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe and leave a rating or a review.